Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Bracketology Podcast. My name is Kerry Miller, joined as always by my good friend Graham Dorn and at least one dog in the background. Graham, are you ready to have a blast talking about the Big 12 today?
I find the Big 12 to be the most competitive conference in all of college basketball. I think we've got probably six teams that have legitimate Final Four chances, not like I can luck into a Final Four. Like I see them as teams that could get there. So, really, really strong conference. Should be fun to talk about.
I agree. I think there's more of a basement to the Big 12 than usual. I feel like, in the past, like Iowa State might go, 2-28 or whatever. TCU would be terrible. Texas. Now we've got three really bad teams. I'm curious how that will affect the league as a whole in terms of, sheer number of bids that they get when all is said and done. But let's get this spreadsheet up and going. We don't disagree on really anything aside from what just Oklahoma State's seed in the 8-9 game. But uh, who from the Big 12 has been the biggest positive surprise to you thus far this season?
I mean, Oklahoma State. I just did not expect Oklahoma State to be competing at this level yet. Their results are better than the metrics for sure. But when you look at what they've done, even protecting their home court against UCF the other day, still a good win. Obviously, they would have liked to have beaten the Sooners. That would have made things a lot better. But for me, Oklahoma State, I wasn't really expecting to be at this level this year, competing for a tournament bid just like they are. So Oklahoma State is the team for me.
Yeah, I'm surprised BYU is as good as they are. I feel like every time, I mean, I know Devonta is amazing, but whenever a top five recruit goes somewhere strange, like, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper going to Rutgers, usually ends in disaster. But man, BYU looks championship caliber good. So we'll see if they can keep it up now that they're into the meat of the schedule. But they play Kansas State or Arizona State the other night and just beat the holy hell out of them. So, biggest negative surprise for you, who would that be?
I mean, if I'm really thinking the whole conference through, like, yeah, are there teams that maybe aren't performing at quite the level that I thought they would? Houston comes to mind. I thought
Hmm.
they could be the national champion, still might, but I really thought for me they were the national championship pick. But I'm going to go the opposite way and say it's really outside of the bracket where I think the biggest disappointment is, and that's Cincinnati. I think
Mhm.
Cincinnati looked like a team that might finally bounce back. They've had 2 years in a row where the efficiency metrics told you this should be an NCAA tournament team, and then they didn't show up. I thought this might be the year where they finally turn it around, make the tournament, and it's looking like a long shot.
Yeah, I agree. And they reinstated Jizzle James to get some offense, and I think they've been held to like 65 or fewer in three of the four games that he's played, or something like that. I mean, it's all gone wrong for the Bearcats. I think this is probably the end of the line for Wes Miller. All right, let's stop talking about the garbage teams. Let's go back to these top six. Right? Arizona, Iowa State, which Iowa State's little retro logo there. I freaking love it. Houston, BYU, Kansas, Texas Tech. Which of these teams do you think will actually be in the running for, a one, two, maybe even a three seed when all is said and done? Because, I mean, they've got six of the top 20 teams in the net, but are they really going to have six teams on the top four seed lines?
I think when you look at the six that are involved there, all it's going to take is a few games that are 50-50 games going one way or the other, and that will dramatically change the seed lines for those teams. What I mean by that is, you see a team like, let's say, Texas Tech, right? Had they won at Houston in a game that was very winnable for them, that is one of the best road wins in college basketball. And that's what's going to happen in the Big 12 this year. When Arizona plays Iowa State, when Houston plays BYU, when Kansas plays Texas Tech, those are high value games for the selection committee. So you might be in three of those games that could go either way. If you win all three, your resume is going to be absolutely fantastic. If you lose all three, all of a sudden maybe you're looking at like a 6 seed. So I think that's the big thing that's going to happen with the top of the Big 12 is if they want to get a lot of those teams in those top three seeds, it's really going to come down to who wins those games. I'm going to go with Arizona. I think they're going to be a 1 seed. Iowa State is probably looking at a 1 or a 2, but I think they're borderline, probably going to be a 1 or a 2 seed. I still think Houston's being slept on a little bit. I think we've been so
Yeah.
disappointed with the way they've played. We kind of forget they were the national title favorite for a lot of people entering this season. I think they'll end up being a top three seed, and everything I've seen from BYU makes me think they'll be a top three seed. So for me, I think we're going to see four. We might see five if either Kansas or Texas Tech catch a break or two along the way.
I think I have more faith in Kansas than I do in Texas Tech because Texas Tech just so much feels just like a two-man team. I mean, obviously it's a very good two-man team, Christian Anderson and JT Toppin, but I feel like they're going to have some games where just one of those guys gets into foul trouble, one of them has an off night, and they're going to lose a game to like a West Virginia or something. I think it's going to really hurt their chances of getting a top 12 overall spot. Yeah, on Houston, I mean, they only have one loss. It was on a neutral court to Tennessee by 3 points. Like they haven't been bad. I think their schedule was kind of intentional, knowing how much more reliant they were going to be on freshmen than usual. They didn't put together outside of the Players Era Festival really much of anything. They won that neutral game against Arkansas. I think that's going to look like their best win when all is said and done in non-conference play. But yeah, will just having done that be enough for the one or two seed conversation? I don't know. Go down to the bubble here. Which of these four teams, UCF, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and TCU, how many of them do you actually believe in? It, over under 2.5 of those four get in. Are you taking the over or the under?
Ooh, I'm taking the over on 2.5. I think
Okay.
UCF's ultimately going to get in. And I think you look at Oklahoma State and Baylor. I think one of those two probably gets in. I like TCU. I do. I don't know what it is about them. I just think they are a little bit more dangerous than that qualitative average would make you think they are. The way they played Florida, obviously, that's going to be a great game, a great win. I think it's going to even look better as we get towards the end of the
Oh
year.
yeah, yeah.
Like it just
Florida,
doesn't
Florida
look.
will figure it out.
It'll mature. It'll end up looking like a very, very good win on Selection Sunday. And I think TCU is eventually going to get there. Let's not forget they were very, very close to beating Michigan. And how different would this resume look if they had that victory? How different would it look if they won at Allen Fieldhouse? I think those two
Yeah,
games are indicative of a team that eventually is going to get one of those big wins, if not two.
yeah. The deeper we get into the season, the more that November 3rd loss to New Orleans looks like quite the outlier. But on that note, let's go to games of the week. I mean, for me, it's TCU's opportunity here. They get Arizona at home. They play at BYU. If they get either of those, they're absolutely in my field a week from now. And as you said, they almost beat Michigan. They almost beat Kansas. I think they've got a chance. And so outside of TCU, where would you go for the Big 12 game in the next 7 days?
Who lots of different options, but I think it's going to be Iowa State
Yeah,
visiting Kansas
yeah,
because this is the sort of game that one tells us if Iowa State's the favorite to win the Big 12. If they win that, they've got the best win so far in Big 12 conference play. So I think Iowa State would even hop Arizona as the Big 12 conference favorite at that point. So, like, beyond talking about seed lines, let's just talk about how great it would be for Iowa State to win the Big 12 championship. They would be absolutely phenomenally thrilled with a victory in the Big 12. Moving on beyond that, I do think it would open up Iowa State for moving from right in contention for a one seed to being a favorite to get a one seed on Selection Sunday at that point. So for me, that's a big one. Also, again, to the point earlier, that will tell us the difference between, is that Kansas and Texas Tech maybe sneaking up into those top three seed lines, or is that the sort of game that pushes them down into that 5 or 6 range? So big seed potential for Kansas on the opposite side.
yeah. And then this game right here on the bubble, Baylor at Oklahoma State next Tuesday, that's going to have pretty big ramifications no matter what happens. That's what happens when a 9 seed or an 8 seed, depending on who we're talking about, when they face a team that's right on the outside looking in. Let's go back to the top teams again, though. If you had to pick one right now and say this Big 12 team is going to the Final Four, and I could tell you that Darren Peterson will be mostly available in the NCAA tournament. I'll let you have that Mr. Kansas fan. Which team do you have the most faith in this league?
I think the team that I have the most faith in is Arizona, and I actually have more faith in them overall than I have in Michigan. Even when I compare those two teams, Michigan, as we've talked about, they almost got beat by TCU. They almost got beat by Wake Forest. Yeah, they are absolutely dominating teams when they're on fire and they're playing well. But they have had a few close calls. Nearly lost at Penn State this week. You look at Arizona; they're just consistently very, very good. There's not really a down game that Arizona's played yet this year. So who do I think is the best Final Four threat? I think it's Arizona, and I think they are absolutely the best national title threat in the Big 12 as well.
I agree. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? They played Kansas State. They were up 15 at halftime and they were 0 for 8 from 3-point range. Like they are just terrifying in the paint. And when Braden Burries is doing his thing from 3-point range or Dwayne Airstone, like yeah, they're going to be a really tough out, but they are Arizona. They haven't made a Final Four since like 1997 or 2001. They made the national championship. I think that was their last Final Four. So they've got that going against them. But aside from that silliness, there's no reason not to believe in Arizona. They've been phenomenal this far this season. So that is all we've got on the Big 12. Tomorrow will be the SEC, and that's really all that's going on in college basketball tomorrow is Graham and I talking about the SEC. But until next time, take care and enjoy what little hoops we have going on tonight.